Hi, Sandra here from Creating Spain. I wanted to show beginners how you use an etching paste. Now this is the etching paste I have. It's called Acryl Glass and it's available in Spain. I don't know what other countries sell it, but this is the only one that I could get my hands on over here. I've not used this particular brand before, and so this is a little bit of an experimentation for me, but it should be fairly straightforward. Now the thing I want to do is to actually etch a design onto this glass container. I've got some chia seeds here which I use in baking, and I just wanted to label it basically. So I have here a piece of vinyl, and I've kiss cut the vinyl with the design that I want. Now when I say kiss cut, for those who are new to this kind of thing with cutting machines, it's where you cut through the vinyl and still leave the backing paper intact. It isn't cut all the way through. Now this is a piece of very cheap vinyl that I picked up in a local shop. I don't actually like the vinyl, it's a horrible mustardy colour rather than gold. But it's still very useful for doing bits and pieces like this. And because it's very cheap, I don't mind using it. So the next thing is, how do we get this onto this? It's very simple. Now I have some sticky back plastic, the sort of stuff that used to cover books in years ago. If you can get it, fine. If you can't, you can use a masking tape. You can buy special transfer tape, but I don't, it's far too expensive. And this is slightly tacky. Okay, so you put your vinyl down and then you put your piece of tape or transfer paper, whatever you like to call it, on the top. And you make sure that it's well adhered. I've used this piece many times, but you make sure that it's well adhered to your transferring medium. You turn this piece over. Now I can actually cut that down quite considerably thinking about it, but I will only cut it down, I think, on the sides, probably because I have way too much width there to go round. So you want to give yourself a little bit of leeway. You don't want to be worried about spreading the paste where it shouldn't go. But there we go. So this is attached now to my transparent bit. And so what I need to do now is to peel back the backing, she says, hopefully. Now most of these vinyls have a wax paper backing. This one doesn't seem to have a very high waxed finish to it at all, which is very unusual, but there we go. And what you want to do is to leave your vinyl on your transfer tape and remove the backing like so. Right, okay, so what we do now is we take our glass or jar, whatever it is that you're doing, try and make sure that it is positioned so it's horizontal, and then wrap this around. If you need to, you can use a credit card or other plastic item to make sure it is flattened down. Now as it happens, I've got this a bit too big because it's going over the lid, but I'm not that bothered. It's not going to be too much of a problem. I can cut it off if need be. So what I'm going to do is stick a pair of scissors under that. Just put the blade of the scissors around the joint where the cap or the lid goes on, and then I can just peel this off. I don't need it. to be there. And it's better if it isn't there, because I can now flatten this down properly, like so. What you want to try and make sure is that you don't have any obvious bubbles around your lettering or your design, whatever it is that you're doing. Because if you've got bubbles, then whatever you put on top of it can go underneath it. And that's obviously what we are trying to avoid. Okay, once you've done that, you can peel off your transfer paper, and as it happens, this will come off really, really easily because it's not very sticky and the vinyl is. I'll find my other bits and actually stick them down. If I can grab it again. They're so tiny, these little pieces. Gotcha. Okay. Okay, so we have our basic stencil on here, and now we need to apply our paste. Now this is acidic, and so I do use some latex gloves to protect my hands. If you're the kind of person who splashes things everywhere, put a pair of goggles on as well, and keep your arms covered. You know, if it eats through glass, it's not a good thing to get on yourself. Now, before I put this on, I did actually clean my jar with some alcohol using a cotton swab. And I'm now going to use a brush to apply the paste. Now this jar comes with a little insert just here that seals it up. There we go. And it's like a fairly thick paint. It's a bit like an acrylic paint in consistency. So I've not tried this one. The last one I had was all lumpy, and it sort of had dried out somewhat and wasn't working overly well, so I needed a new one. And I found over here it's actually quite difficult to get. So I eventually found somewhere that sells it, but it wasn't easy to find. And you just basically want to make sure that your entire design has got a layer of paste on it. It's got a slightly acidic smell to it, this one, which the other one didn't. The other one I found smelled like raisins. Very odd, but there we go, that's what it reminded me of. So I'm just doing a very basic covering. And just dab it on, you don't have to force it. As long as it contacts with the glass, then it should work, as long as the cream's working at all, of course. Now you can go over it several times in different directions if you feel you want to. A lot of people do recommend it, and certainly if you're using it for, say, a decorative mirror or commemorative glassware or something like that, you really want to make sure that there are no gaps in your design. I've got that on there, so I'm just going to put the lid back on. can. What I think I'll do is scrape this off of here first and put it into the jar. That should make life a bit easier. Like so. There we are. So I'm pretty happy that I've got a good coating on there. I've got enough. And it's nice and smooth, this stuff. It's not lumpy at all. So I'm very happy with the consistency of it. All I need to do is hope that it does what it's supposed to do. I see no reason why it shouldn't, but you never know. Okay, now this has to be left for 10 minutes. And then at the end of the 10-minute period, you rinse it off. And then you can remove your stencil. Now, because I have to take it to another room to rinse it off, and I will have to come back to you in 10 minutes time, I'll come back with it rinsed. Now, one thing I would say is keep your gloves on while you're rinsing it. Make sure all the paste is entirely gone, and then remove your gloves. Because if you don't remove your gloves, you're going to get in a right state with the vinyl. Believe me, I've done it. And it wasn't pretty. Okay, I'll be back in a few minutes. Okay, I've given this exactly 10 minutes and then I wiped off most of the paste with a piece of kitchen towel and then rinsed it off under the tap. So now I can take off my vinyl. So this is the end result. I'm just going to see if you can see that underneath the camera lens. It's come out perfectly. It's done exactly what I wanted it to do. And the only other thing that I did was I wiped it over again with alcohol to get rid of any of the sticky residue. I've missed a little bit there. Sticky residue from the vinyl, but it's worked perfectly, absolutely perfectly. I don't know as you can get a really good view of it, unfortunately. The actual stencil itself was made from a free font, and even the curly whirly bits were just pieces from an ornamental font, and I just stretched them and rotated them to fit my wording. So there we go. A very nice thing to do for glassware. And I like, as I said, using this on jars in the kitchen simply because it doesn't actually wear away. Now, if you do it and you start rubbing this over and suddenly everything disappears, don't worry, it doesn't show up when it's wet. It only appears after it's dry. If I make this wet now, it would all disappear, but it's still there. It is still etched. You can't do anything to get rid of that now. It's there for good. Okay, that's it. And here's another look at the product that I used. I'm not endorsed by this product. It's just one that I managed to find, and it works perfectly. I gave it the 10 minutes as you are supposed to, and it did the job exactly as it said on the label. Thanks so much for watching.